Coming up on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, we talk a little bit about the quarterback competition and who's doing what, who's doing how, and what does it mean. We'll talk about other players that are also standing out for spring practice, and also Derek Vandygriff comes by to talk about the unmitigated disaster that was last weekend in Ole Miss Baseball. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am Stephen Willis, your host. And of course, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You can also hit the bell for notifications of new videos going up, which happens quite frequently. And of course, upvote the video itself. We would appreciate it very much. We're back after a couple of days off. We're kind of in a temporary studio at the moment, getting ready. We're doing a lot of refurbishment, and because of that, and not wanting it to sound like it was right underneath a jet engine, we took Monday and Tuesday off. So thank you for bearing with us in that, and we apologize for doing it in the first place. But there's a lot of stuff that I've been wanting to talk about and everything, from the fact that Ole Miss signed a kicker, or committed a kicker in the transfer portal, which we always said, keep an eye out for. It'll tell you everything you need to know about Lane Kiffin and his thoughts on this team. Was if he gets a kicker for 1 year in the absence of Caden Costa. Now, Caden Costa was supposed to fill that role. Obviously, last year he did what he needed to do. But this year, with him being suspended until the Egg Bowl, there was a decision to make. Either you leave points on the board and you go for everything, or you get a kicker to maximize what you're doing. And Ole Miss chose to maximize what they were doing. So they committed Jonathan Cruz out of Charlotte. The nickname goes out, and you see things on Twitter called Cruise Missiles. He had a 56-yard game winner last year for the Charlotte 49ers against FAU. And also, he's got multiple 56-yard field goals in his college career. So it's a big-time leg. So it's a good get for Ole Miss, and I look forward to seeing exactly how we can maximize this unit. Now, a lot of this unit is going to come up with how the quarterback controversy or competition plays out. Now, you say controversy, competition, it's the same thing. And we'll see. Jaxson Dart had a scrimmage that was kind of hard to deal with. Now, remember, Ole Miss running that 3-2-6 defense, it's difficult on quarterbacks. It just is. Matt Corral threw 6 interceptions against Arkansas in that defense. Bryce Young threw for like 170 yards for the whole game in that defense. It is hard when you see that defense and you're new to it. So he has to learn, he has to develop. So I don't think I would put too much stock in what is going on, honestly. I just don't know if I would put it in that at this point. But what I would do is I would enjoy the experience that he's getting from it, because he's not going to see this very often. He's not going to see this, but periodically it might come up. But passing-wise, they do a great job. So anything he's going to struggle, this will be one of the better units he sees all season. That's the point of it. So if he's going against that, he's going to have an easier time against other defenses. So that is good to see. Now, Luke Altmyer, we've told you several times, the way that you beat Jaxson Dart is by being machine-like, being hyper-efficient. And by all accounts, he's kind of doing that now. Now, he's taking shots downfield. He's doing what he's supposed to do, but he's showing a grasp of this offense that's at an extremely high level. And that's really, honestly, good to see coming from Luke Altmyer, because it's showing his ability to compete. And he's keeping that gap that he came into spring with at the same level. Because remember, if Jaxson Dart closed that gap in spring at all, Luke Altmyer would have trouble in the fall. But right now, it seems to be right where it started at. And Luke Altmyer probably at this point is winning the job. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to in the fall. There's still a lot of reps that have to go under the bridge between now and kickoff in Troy Labor Day weekend. But what it means is Luke Altmyer has a legit chance now. This is not a foregone conclusion. Now, there have been people that have said it's foregone conclusions, and that's fine. You're going to see it all the time. You got people that just want whatever's going on to end so they can see the resolution. They don't want to wait. They don't have the patience for it. It's impulse now. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. And these type of things are slow. Coaches are notoriously risk averse. And you need to see a totality of reps before they are comfortable making a decision. Right now, Luke Altmyer, very machine-like. The way you beat a Brett Favre type quarterback is with a Drew Brees type quarterback, and that's how you win that job. But right now, if it goes through, there's like a week and a half left in practice. If it goes through the next week and a half, exactly where it is now, we got a war on our hands in the fall. A big-time quarterback competition that is going to hit during the fall. And I'm pretty honestly excited about that because you never really know how this is going to play out. But Luke Altmyer definitely has a chance, and this quarterback competition is more of a competition than some people would like to admit. And also, in the first segment, we told you about the kicker and what to look for. If Lane Kiffin felt really good about this team, he would get a kicker. And he is doing just that. This is the time of year when I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. This year, I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious and all new flavors, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It'll be delicious, and it will be good for you. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then they figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every single time. So here's the offer. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, all one word, and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Now for a big announcement starting Thursday, April 28th. Tune into Locked On NFL Draft's live coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft with 3 days of real-time analysis from our extensive lineups of experts and insiders. And for those of you dying to know who your team will take, catch Audacity and Locked On NFL's mock draft special hosted by Brian Peacock and former scout Matt Williamson of the Peacock and Williamson NFL show all week leading up to the first pick. Where? Locked On NFL Draft Live on the Locked On NFL Draft YouTube page or the Audacity NFL Mock Draft at the Audacity and Locked On NFL Draft podcast feeds. That's where they're going to pop up. When? Locked On NFL Draft Live, 28th of April at 7 p.m. Eastern, 29th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and 30th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And Audacity's NFL Mock Draft, that is April 18th through 22nd and the 25th. So we got a bunch of good stuff coming up with the NFL Draft. We're getting, when you look at what we're doing on the Locked On Network and the areas we provide, we're looking at doing this differently, and it's kind of cool and kind of working out. Now, John Garcia has come over to be our recruiting analyst. He's coming over from Sports Illustrated. I think he works there currently. So he can talk about recruiting stuff. We're going to have him on the show in the next couple of weeks and allow him to just basically become the expert and all of that. So I look forward to bringing that on into what you're going on so we can start talking about recruiting a little bit before football season starts and as the summer gets here. So I want to bring him on probably every 2 weeks if we can and talk about what's going on in the Ole Miss recruitosphere, so to speak. Now, with Ole Miss in the transfer portal, there's probably not a whole bunch that he's talking about, but Ole Miss is in the 2023s pretty hard, and 2024s especially. So that is pretty cool to see. Now, in the first segment, we talked about the kicker and the quarterback competition and what exactly that means. Now, one thing that has happened in the second segment we're going to talk about is a player that's standing up out on the defensive side of the ball in Ashanti Cistrunk. He apparently made several plays in the scrimmage this past weekend, subbing for Troy Brown. The week before, he's made several plays in the scrimmage, subbing for Troy Brown, and he's had a good spring practice. And I'm excited about that because one thing that I was looking at was the worried part on the defense was the linebackers and the performance that Chance Campbell and Mark Robinson gave the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, we take Ashanti and what he's doing, he has a chance to be that player. He made big plays against Texas A&M last year. Ole Miss might not beat Texas A&M if it wasn't for Ashanti Cistrunk. But since they did it, his playmaking ability got it done. Now, he's kind of translating that in the spring, and he's really working hard with the new transfers that come in. You got Troy Brown, you've got Kari Coleman as the guys they brought in to actually start, and the younger guys have to basically beat them out. Now, Troy Brown dealing with injuries has given Ashanti Cistrunk a chance to get on the field. And all he's done on the field this spring is just make plays. Now, just like the offense when we're talking about the quarterback competition, we need to preface this by plenty of reps to go. When they start fall camp and everything going on, they're going to deal with plenty of reps. And once that is situated, Troy Brown might come out on top. Ashanti Cistrunk might come out on top. Kari Coleman might come out on top. We don't know exactly what that'll look like, but spring is about hyper competition. That's all this is about. It's about who's going to start in fall when you're getting ready for the actual team as the alphas. That's what spring practice is about. With all these transfers coming in, who's going to be the people that take over the locker room? Who are going to be the people that does the things that you need them to do? And right now, the player that seems to be doing the things that you need him to do is Ashanti Cistrunk. And that is pretty good to see. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why often endure the pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning, like, is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? And wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on his computers using only the brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. So you can save some time and money at Rock Auto. It's a family-owned business serving do-it-yourselfers for 20 years, and it has reliable, low prices for every customer. So go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution for your auto parts needs. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On, 2 words, in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. You can say whatever you want to say. Just give us a 5-star review if you don't mind. That'll help others try to find the podcast that are trying to do it. I'm here with Derek Vandygriff, a couple of days late because of everything that's been going on. But he's here to talk about what was the unmitigated disaster of this weekend. I honestly, at this point, still can't believe it happened, but it did. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Man, I've been better. But we'll get through it. We'll have a nice palatial Central Florida studio after all this is done.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I think we should just get right to it. What happened this weekend?
Classic case of all 3 aspects of the game just going as poorly as they possibly could. We've talked about it all year long with our fielding and our pitching, and now all of a sudden we can't hit. We hit 9 home runs over an entire weekend, but only score 17 runs off of 9 home runs, and you end up getting swept at home by what's supposed to be a middle-of-the-road SEC team. Now, Alabama is playing pretty good, but when you go on the road and get 3 wins in Oxford, then that's going to improve your record a little bit. The pitching, I just don't really know where else to go with it. The only bright spot I found the entire weekend, quite frankly, was Josh Mallett's. We've talked about him a few times on this podcast. He's pitched pretty good this year. He just hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities. He's pitched in 5 games so far this year, 10 2/3 innings, 13 strikeouts, 5 walks. He's limiting contact more than he did last year, which kind of got him in trouble. that kind of got him in the doghouse a little bit, it seemed like. Quite frankly, I think it's about time that we give him a little more of an opportunity to either start or bulk or something and, just see what he's got, because clearly what we do have and what we're running out there isn't getting the job done for us right now.
Yeah, it's upsetting. It's got almost to the point where offense, if we don't hit a home run, we don't score. It doesn't seem like we can, at this point in time, manufacture runs. There's no moving runners over to first to second and just trying to just put up a single run in an inning. Is that concerning at all to you?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, you can't move them from first to second and second to third when you don't get on first to begin with. I was going back looking so far in conference play for Ole Miss so far. Obviously, we've played 12 games. We're 4-8 right now. We have a .309 on-base percentage. That ain't going to cut it in this conference. We're batting, I think, .234 as a team in the conference. You're only getting on base at a .309 clip. We're hitting plenty of home runs, obviously, but nobody's on base to score. So you got a lot of solo shots in there, and kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the year, this offense is going to be able to slug our way to some victories. We're going to be able to outscore people while our pitching figures it out, because we always figure out our pitching. Well, now we're not scoring all those runs. We're not slugging our way to victories, and the pitching still isn't figuring it out. So it's really the perfect storm of, quite frankly, a total disaster up to this point in conference play for the Rebs.
Okay, explain how we fix this season.
Well, you've got to take better at bats. We're up there. We've struck out in 12 games so far in conference play 139 times. I mean, think about that for a second. 12 games and 139 strikeouts. That's all approach. We're going up there and we're thinking home run or bust. Nobody's up there taking pitches, and some of it, I understand the argument. People say, well, the umpiring's been so bad, the strike zone's all over the place. Well, yeah, but strike zone's all over the place for all the teams, and they're not striking out 139 times in 12 games. And that's what we're doing right now. We're not taking our walks. We're not working counts. We're not making pitchers work to get us out, and we're letting them get deeper into games. We're not able to eat into bullpens, which is what we did very well last year. We were able to chase a starter, get into a bullpen, and put up a bunch of runs. And we're not even able to do that because we're letting a pitcher go, 6 and 7 innings while throwing 75 pitches. They're not going to pull a guy if he's not walking guys, and all he's doing is giving up solo home runs. And that's really all we're doing right now. We're swinging for the fences. We're swinging through a bunch of really good pitches, and we're not laying off of anything in the dirt right now. T.J. McCants is a good example. As good as he was earlier in the year, he really seemed to have changed his approach, and but he was hitting all fastballs. Well, it finally clicked in their heads, like, well, this kid couldn't hit a back foot slider or couldn't lay off a back foot slider last year, so let's just go back to throwing back foot sliders to him. Well, he still can't lay off of him. He's not getting fastballs anymore, and he can't let that pitch go by. About the only one I've seen progress from as far as their approach is Kemp Alderman. Kemp has done an incredible job this year, completely changing the way he approaches every single at bat. He's trying to lay off of anything spinning and breaking and off speed and attack fastballs. But even when he does have to attack those breaking balls, he's able to stay on them a lot better and ends up hitting them 481 feet.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable home run he hit this past weekend. I saw highlights of it going on. It absolutely was an unbelievable home run. So the close cousin of team never punt from football is team strikeouts don't matter. And I think we're all seeing right now that strikeouts matter. Tony Gwynn would absolutely light up baseball in modern baseball.
Oh, man, he would be so mad watching this team right now. Strikeouts obviously do matter. Now, they may not matter in the sense of situations in games, 2 out, runner at second, or runner at first, I mean. Yeah, you may want to try to get the big swing there to get the runner in, but if you get a runner on to lead off the inning, then the first thing you need to do is try to find a way to work a count or just blue point into the outfield, get a guy in scoring position. Then after that, you're talking about a grounder to first base to move him over, and then a sac fly deep to right field to get him in. Try to manufacture some runs. That way you're not solely relying on the home runs like we are, because it very obviously isn't working. So we're hitting plenty of home runs. We're just not scoring enough runs to win games.
Yeah, it's I mean, you got Jacob Gonzalez hitting 3 home runs in a single game, and it's just all for naught. It's just the weirdest thing. Whenever somebody has a game like that and you end up losing, it's like Michael Jordan back in the day would score 65 points in a game and the Bulls would lose.
Yeah, we hit 6 home runs that game, and to our credit, we did end up getting, 10 runs. But when you hit 6 home runs, you're probably going to score in double digits, or you better score in double digits. Yeah. But back to the pitching again, because we know our pitching isn't good enough. We're doing everything we can. We're tinkering with it. We're trying different guys in different situations. I thought Saturday set up pretty well from a pitching standpoint, because I figured we'd go with Gaddis, start out, and then we'd piggyback him with Doherty. And that kind of seemed to work out fairly well to begin things. And then all of a sudden it just fell apart after that. And I'm not real sure what's going on with Brandon Johnson right now, but he just doesn't look the same his last 2 appearances, going back to the Southern Miss game and then that Saturday game against Alabama. He's given up 2 leads in the last 2 games he's pitched for us.
Yeah, and I didn't see the final score, but the last I saw was in the 8th inning. Ole Miss was up yesterday, I should say, over Murray State in the kids' game. So I'm sure they ended up closing that out. Yeah,
I think it was 8-1 was the final. And a big note from that game, by the way, Max Trophy made his debut. We've been talking a good bit throughout the year about trying to get Max back. I was able to watch his inning when he was able to come in. He was sitting 86, 87. He was never a big velocity guy. He was just always able to pitch. But he gave up a double, a ground out, strikeout. Had a pretty good inning. You would think the velocity would uptick a little bit as he gets a little bit more experience and more innings, trying to build back from that Tommy John surgery. But it's certainly good seeing him back on the mound and give us another arm out of that pen.
Yeah. And is this weekend South Carolina?
Yeah, in Columbia.
Okay, so this is a huge series, because I think after South Carolina is Mississippi State, right?
Yeah, State and Oxford for double-decker weekend.
Yeah, so the next 2 weekends is going to determine this season. How do you see them playing out?
Well, the way it needs to play out, quite frankly, is we need to end up winning 5 or 6 if we're going to get back in the mix here. We're kind of running out of series to, now we're not even talking about hosting. We're trying to make the field at this point, So now you're trying to find a path to get to probably 14 conference wins is probably what it's going to take. You don't see a whole lot of 13-win conference win teams get in. So 14 is kind of the number. We're at 4 now. So you got to find a way to get to 10. We really need to get 5 over these next 2 weekends. South Carolina is so Jekyll and Hyde, though. They end up taking 2 out of 3 from Texas and 2 out of 3 from Vanderbilt. And then they end up losing 2 out of 3 against Missouri and end up getting swept by Clemson. It's either one extreme or the other for them. Hopefully we get the bad version of it. But we really need to go take at least 2 in Columbia this weekend, then come back and hopefully sweep State. Bottom line is it's 2 teams that aren't playing very good. And Ole Miss is, for whatever reason, played a lot better on the road than we have at home. So we need to get 5 out of 6 out of these next 2 weekends.
All right, now let's talk about a little bit of the elephant in the room. I was sitting here talking to somebody, I think sometime this weekend, where this season in Ole Miss Baseball and Mike Bianco's season reminds me of AK's last year.
And, I had that conversation.
Yeah, and I just wonder if they're going to be able to pull it out, or if they're just kind of letting go of the rope a little bit.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to say, because we're not inside the locker room and all that. We're not inside the head of these kids and what they're thinking and everything. You kind of read body language, though, when you're watching them on TV, and, guys don't seem quite as engaged. Tim Elko seems to be giving everything he's got. And quite frankly, that's really the only one that I can confidently say is actually giving everything he's got. We didn't see all of these mishaps defensively, at least from Jacob Gonzalez the last year. He hasn't been great in the field. Don't know if that's lack of confidence or lack of just being locked in. And then Burford, him at third base, he's been a disaster over there defensively. He swung it well enough. I think we got to get benched, maybe move him into third, let him take over right there, and then kind of work with whatever you can in that outfield. Hadn't been a great defensive outfield. It'll get worse if you take bench out of it, I know, but we got capable guys out there that can take over for him. But, yeah, it does kind of make you wonder if maybe that whole LSU thing last year kind of got in these kids' heads, and maybe they're not playing quite as hard as they were last year for him. And if that is the case, that'd be really disappointing. I mean, look, Mike Bianco's given everything to Ole Miss. All right. I mean, he's 21 great years going on 22. I was actually talking to some buddies yesterday about it. I mean, they were asking me what I thought would happen to Bianco at the end of the season. I'm not going to say anything about Bianco until the end of the season. He's given us 21 years. He has earned the right to play out his 22nd year before anybody makes any sort of decisions on his future. And I'm going to be behind him 100%. I know he's going to keep mixing it up. He's going to try everything that he can to get this ship righted. And I really hope that he can for his sake and his legacy at Ole Miss, because I think this one here is a little bit unfairly tarnishing what he's done over these 22 years in Oxford.
Yeah, and people just need to realize, I mean, he is Ole Miss Baseball. There is no Ole Miss Baseball without him. And
there's nobody else.
You need to be able to separate what's going on and how to look at it, but that's a lot of context that's going into this. There's people that just saying, oh, we need to be in the College World Series every year. Okay. Where do you get that from? Where's that coming from?
But, it's not quite that easy, and especially saying about a program that had only made it once before Bianco had ever showed up. The last time was what was that, 71 or 72, something like that, whenever Archie was the shortstop. It's not a place with a lot of history that we had a lot to build on when Mike got there. He's built all this from the ground up, and oddly enough, he did it with pitching through the majority of these 22 years, and that may end up being his downfall this year. He ends up finally falling off where he didn't evaluate right with Derek Diamond. That's on Mike and the staff. And I think they would tell you that. And I don't think Derek's completely healthy, but he still hasn't progressed the way that he needs to progress. I think everybody would agree that we expect more out of Jack Doherty in his second year after what we saw last year. He's kind of taking a step back. I mean, he comes in, he shows the flashes where he can be that dominant, either 3-4 inning starter or the multi-inning guy out of the bullpen. And then the transfers, Washburn, he's, you watch him pitch and you see the stuff and you think, man, he could be unreal if he could just figure out a way to harness it for 5-6 innings at a time. And, he does for 3 and then he ends up losing it in an inning. And, Gaddis, he never pitched above Texas A&M Corpus Christi, throwing him in the mix in the SEC West is a whole nother ball game. And, it's not that he's not a capable arm. He is a capable arm, but he's not a guy that you have to rely on Friday or Saturday. And, it kind of hit in the weird time as far as scholarships go in baseball. I don't know how much people know about all that, but, at Ole Miss, you get a hard 11.7, and that is it. We don't have any of these lottery scholarships for neighboring states to bring kids in where they can get 50, 60% of out-of-state tuition paid for if they get a certain SAT score and all that. We don't have anything like that like Arkansas does, Mississippi State and Vanderbilt to the umpteenth degree. They take it to a whole nother level up there. So we're at that hard 11.7. This was a short year for us as far as scholarships goes, being able to bring people in. And I think they actually did a pretty good job when you look back and see, they were able to bring in Hunter Elliott. And, Burford has been a good bat, even though he's been a little disappointing in the field. Riley Maddox is another one. They were able to allocate the money to get players we needed, but it was in such a short year we weren't able to go get those big stud pitchers that we really needed to fill out this class with the hitting that we had. And, I think our hitters are pressing a little bit. You don't have Doug Nikhazy and Gunnar Hoagland walking out there on Friday and Saturday where they think, all right, guys, we go out there and we score 4 or 5 runs, and this sucker's over by the 3rd inning, because they are not touching those two. It's a complete different mindset. They're going out there probably thinking, we got to score 9, 10, 11, 12 runs to even have a shot at this, because, quite frankly, they see what we see every day, and they know that they just can't throw it good enough.
Yeah, it's like whenever I describe Jackson Kimbrell, whenever you have a team that goes up taking comfortable at bats, Jackson Kimbrell is going to give up a lot of runs the way he pitches. But if the team presses, Jackson Kimbrell is a very, very impressive pitcher. And this is the flip side of that, where Ole Miss bats are going up there pressing a little bit, which is making a Jackson Kimbrell type pitcher that more effective.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the whole approach thing. We're not walking, we're striking out a ton, we're swinging for the fences. So I think all that goes back to that. You know, when you had those two guys last year, they knew all they had to do was go up there and put a quality at bat up, and they were good enough to be able to get the job done as long as they had the pitching on the mound to do it. And, you know, this year we just don't have it. I know they're going to keep tinkering with it, try to figure something out. Like I said, I wish we'd give Josh Mallets a bigger role and see what he can do, because he's almost the only one that we haven't tried out there so far as putting him out there to either start or bulk or come in to a big situation. You know, they threw him in there Friday night to basically save our bullpen. He did one heck of a job.
Yeah, fantastic job. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Tomorrow we will continue to talk about Ole Miss, including the practice that was yesterday and on the press conference and all that. We'll talk about all of that. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft with Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker. They bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football and NFL front offices. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Derek, I want you to have a great birthday, have a lot of fun up in Nashville, and thanks for stopping by even though we were a little late.
I appreciate it, man. Hi, Toddy.
Hotty toddy, bud.